Hey guys, Mike here, and in this video we're going to put side by side Google's Nexus 5 and Samsung's Galaxy Note 3. They don't exactly play in the same league, as the Nexus 5 is significantly more affordable than Samsung's device. But if you're considering one over the other, here's what you should know about these two. We'll start with a quick look at them. The Nexus 5 is more compact and quite a lot lighter than the Note 3, while only fractions of a millimeter thicker, but that was expected given how it has a smaller screen. Still, the smaller body makes the Nexus 5 easier to hold in hand and use, while actually using the Note 3 single-handedly is a really tough challenge. Besides that, the Nexus 5 feels solid, reliable, but also cheap somehow. Regular matte plastic is used for the case on this black version that I have here. The Note 3 is also covered in plastic, but different types of it wrap around the body with some glossy silver edges and the back designed to mimic leather. Just don't be fooled, plastic is still plastic and feels like it. The Note 3 also tends to squeak when grabbed firmly, and that's probably because the backplate is removable, leaving access to the easily replaceable battery and the SIM and microSD card slots behind. Speaking of that, you're not going to find an expansion slot on the Nexus 5, which means that you'll have to choose carefully whether you'll buy the 16 or the 32GB model, as there's no way to get more storage space on either of them. Aside from that, the Note 3 does pack a few extra goodies, like the Air Blaster on top, which allows you to control a TV or other electronics, the S Pen with all its pen-like features, the USB 3.0 port, and the suite of gestures and air commands. The Nexus 5 lacks all of this. It's a much simpler device meant to deliver the core, basic Android experience. The OS stands behind that as well. There's the latest version of Android on the Nexus 5 called 4.4 KitKat, with Google services and apps pre-installed and not much else. On the other hand, Samsung offers Android 4.3 Jelly Bean on the Note, with their own TouchWiz UI on top and a long list of pre-bundled apps and services. Choosing one approach over the other is only up to you. Quite a few of the apps on the Note 3 can be useful, but many of them are just crap. That's why I for one prefer the vanilla Android version of the Nexus 5, which acts like a barebone on top of which I can build a device up to my own liking. There's however one aspect where vanilla Android usually sucks: efficiency. And that has not changed on the Nexus 5, which can barely get you through the day with low to medium use. It's true, it only has a 2300 mAh battery, as opposed to the 3200 mAh one inside the Galaxy Note 3. But even so, the Samsung can easily go for 2 days with average use. Not to mention that the battery is replaceable on this one. The Nexus 5 does come with wireless charging abilities out of the box, but I doubt that's a consolation for anyone. Of course, since we compared battery life expectations, we should also talk about two major consumers inside these phones: the hardware and the screens. Both the Nexus 5 and the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 pack Snapdragon 800 processors with Adreno 330 graphics. The Samsung gets 3GB of RAM, while the Nexus settles for only 2. But in everyday use, both devices are simply flying. In fact, I've seen no lag at all with either of them, which is not that common for Android devices. As for the screens, well, on the Note 3 there's a massive 5.7-inch display with Full HD resolution and a Super AMOLED panel. On the Nexus 5 there's only a 4.95-inch screen, again with Full HD resolution, but with an IPS Plus panel. As a result, the Google handset has the sharper display, but you're not going to spot any differences when looking at the two heads-on. We will however spot the deeper contrast on the AMOLED panel and the popping out oversaturated colors. On the other hand, the colors are a bit washed out on the Nexus. Long story short, both devices pack some awesome displays with small quirks, but I'm confident you'll be more than happy with either of them. Moving on, this comparison won't be complete without a few words about the cameras. Both phones feature front-facing shooters capable of taking 1080p recordings. Decent, but nothing fancy about them. On the back though, the Note 3 packs a 13MP camera, while the Nexus settles for an 8MP shooter. However, you know that I don't care about specs much, I only care about results. And the Note 3 is superior in almost every way to the Nexus 5 here. In fact, the only time the Google handset steps in front is when taking videos while moving, thanks to its optical image stabilization. Otherwise, the pics and the videos coming out of the Note 3 are just better. However, what's really annoying when trying to use the Nexus as a camera phone is the software. The camera app takes at least 1 or 2 seconds to launch and then just as much to take a pic. That if it manages to focus properly, as that tends to fail more often than you'd want, especially in poor light conditions. Hopefully this will be addressed with a software update soon. Anyway, like I said in the beginning, these two phones don't exactly compete at a similar level. The Nexus 5 is a budget-oriented smartphone with top specs, but corners had to be cut to meet the $350 starting price of this unit, even if it's sold without a profit through Google Store. That's for the 16GB version. The 32GB option sells for $399 in the US, or about €399 over here. In comparison, the base version of the Note 3 with 32GB of internal storage sells for $650 in the US and about €650 over here. Off-contract prices in all these cases, of course. With that in mind, it's up to you to pick one side over the other. With the Note you get the larger screen, the pressure-sensitive pen, the extra features and the longer battery life, but this won't come cheap. With the Nexus you'll be making some trade-offs, but since the camera should be somewhat brought to a usable status by a software update, the only major drawback is the subpar battery life. Is that something you can live with? If yes, then go for it. The Nexus 5 has no real competitor in its price range. If not, well, look around. Devices like this Note 3, the Samsung Galaxy S4, the LG G2 or the Sony Xperia Z1 could be the more appropriate options for you. Anyway, time to wrap this up. Thanks for watching and I do hope you enjoyed this video, in which case make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for my future updates. I'll see you soon.